Okay, let's begin a very important lecture of today. In this lecture, we'll be discussing about the introduction. How to write introduction in a impact factor journal or for an impact factor journal. Introduction is a very important. Why? Because it is the beginning of your research article, your thesis. The pattern of the introduction is same for the thesis and for the research article. You need to understand that the story must revolve around the main dependent variable. It is the hero of your research article, your research thesis. The story, it is the protagonist. It is the protagonist of your research. And if you talk about this article, understanding consumers' behavior intentions toward dealing with the plastic waste. Dealing with the plastic waste. So you see, in this topic, the main dependent variable is plastic waste. Excellent. Plastic waste. So this introduction is all about the plastic waste. Since we are talking about the intention as well and developing country, that is Pakistan in the case. So we will be connecting the dots of the intentions, the factors which are creating the intention towards the consumer, plastic waste, and quoting the importance in the developing country. Okay, let's begin the introduction with the introduction. In this technologically advancing era, products with the environmental friendly features are rapidly emerging. But plastic waste poses challenges to the societies regardless of this advancement. So you see, we started with the general and then came to the plastic waste, and here we made our point that plastic waste possesses challenges to the society regardless of the advancement. The advancement, there is a disadvantage of the advancement, that is the plastic waste. And the quotation is there. The quotation or the in-text citation must be of a credible journal, and it should have a great number of citations with it. When you go to the Google Scholar, you see if this paper has a large citation, a great number of citation, then you have to select. Otherwise, don't go for that. It means this paper has really some credibility. Plus, you need to read that research article as well. Along with the changing lifestyle of consumers, the consumption of plastic has been increasing due to its convenient usage. So here we talked about the factors. You see, increasing due to its convenience usage. So the convenience is one of the factor. And Alam et al. 2018 has talked about it in text citation. Number of products in our daily life are made of plastic. The plastic waste includes most common single-use plastic, that includes plastic bags, plastic bottles, disposal, coffee, juice cups and lids, straws, plastic cutlery and food packaging. So plastic waste include what? So this article is telling not about the plastic waste, but what does it include? Because plastic waste, we need to tell the reader what do we mean by plastic waste. So we are telling the waste which are produced by the cutlery, which are produced by the bags, especially the one time single use. Over here you see single use is written. Single use plastic specifically. So Johnston 2017. This is the in-text citation. And remember, these in-text citation must have a credible journal. If it is not published in a credible journal, do not go with that. Over the past 65 years, 8.3 billion metric tons of plastic has been produced. By the end of 2015, the consumption of plastic had reached to 97.5 million tons globally, and that is mentioned in the plastic pollution organization. So basically, the organization which has the data about the plastic pollution, it has quoted that if this trend continues, then it is expected that by 2025, 12 billion tons of plastic will be dumped in landfills and causing environmental pollution. So you see the severity of the situation because of plastic waste. So that is why, so what it is saying that here we have chosen the topic plastic waste. Why? Because it is causing a great damage to the environment. So you see criticality of the situation. That's what I mentioned in my last lecture, that the criticality or significance of the situation is very important. As we discussed in our last problem statement lecture, the adolescent smoking, you remember? In the adolescent smoking, we started with the criticality of the problem. That it is very critical that the people are dying, the youngsters are dying because of that. So that is how you come up to your point. You tell that what is the criticality. That is why we are going to solve this problem. That is why we are spending our resources on that. That is why we have researched on the topic. So if there is no such reason, then no research. Research must have a proper reason behind it, the logic. So here you develop the rationality, that why you are talking about this. Moreover, it has been pointed out that plastic contain the toxic chemicals such as polychlorinated biphenyls, nonphenols, organic plasticide such as dichlorphenyl trichloroethane, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, polybrominated diphenyl ethers, and biphenol A. So you see, it contains a lot of material which is toxic. These all are toxic chemicals. So in one plastic there are many toxic chemicals. And at the end you see the citation is there, Webb et al. 2012, that cannot be simply dumped in soil. So what does it mean? It cannot be simply dumped in soil. Why? Because over here we are talking about dealing with the plastic waste. That is why we are talking about dealing with the plastic waste. So that cannot be dumped in soil. So we need to deal it other way. That's what we are going to talk about. How to deal with the plastic waste. Okay. Nevertheless, plastic contains toxic and hazardous chemicals that are released into the environment if handled carelessly. In the past few years, plastic pollution has been an alarming issue. The United Nations stated that plastic is one of the substantial environmental threat faced by the world. Another quotation, Gabitis 2018. Natural ecosystem has been negatively influenced by plastic, initiating the complications for the human population and wildlife, such as harming the plants' life and posing danger to animals. Moreover, air and soil are contaminated by toxic chemicals that are released when plastic is burned or buried in soil. Another, Elias 2018. Across the world, impact of plastic pollution in ocean is the growing concern and is getting worse due to improper waste disposal. So you see, improper waste disposal. It is the topic of ours. Dealing with the plastic waste. Along the Pakistan coast. Now we are talking about the developing country, that is Pakistan. Along the Pakistan coast, the plastic pollution is the growing concern and is getting worse due to improper waste disposal system. Bureau 2017. Now, taking towards the solution of the problem. Now we are talking about the solution of the problem. Let's come up with the solution of the real problem. Faced with this grim situation, proper waste management is required, which can be better implemented by the help of reverse logistics. So that's how we come up with a solution. The dealing with the plastic waste will resolve the problem. Reverse logistics means reverse, we have to take it back. Evidence from the literature. Now we are talking about the evidence from the literature, the same thing which we studied in our last lecture. You remember, we discussed evidence from the literature. Do you remember that? For proper waste management, most of the researchers have focused on, now you see the problem statement has really started. Previously we were talking about the background, now we are talking about the problem statement. We started from the significance and now we are talking about evidence from the literature. For proper waste management, most of the researchers have focused on recycling of the waste products. The researchers have been conducted in different countries. The researches have been conducted in different countries such as England, Hong Kong, and these are the citations. Multiple citations on the same thing. India and Malta. So these are the citations. Pauline and Ferris, 1992, defines the reverse logistics as the flow of products from a consumer towards a manufacturer in distribution. Reverse logistics means the product is going back to the manufacturer, the one who first made the product. So you defined as well. Moreover, these movement or flows of goods arises due to any of the following: when consumer return defective products or goods are returned for recycling, or products recall causes for reverse flow. In general, reverse logistics involves collection of used products from the end user, sorting these products, returning to plant, and finally reprocessing and redistributing the products. This is the citation, Hujetti et al. 2016. Okay, so you see, it is all from the literature. We are talking about the evidence from the literature. The evidence from the literature. You see, we talked about the researches explicitly, and whatever we talked about, okay, what is already available in the literature. What is already available in the literature. Vele et al. 2005 pointed out that reverse logistics is dependent on the consumers to work efficiently, as they are the first link in reverse logistics channel. The consumer as supplier in the reverse logistics. You see, here come the importance of consumer. They talked about the reverse logistics, that is the dealing with the plastic. Now we are talking about the consumer intention. So we are focused with the consumer. Consumers to work efficiently, as they are the first link in reverse logistics. The consumer act as supplier in the reverse logistics. So consumer is the supplier in the reverse logistics, that the product cannot flow back to the manufacturer if the consumer will not supply that. So this is also mentioned with the Gore and Mani 2018. So available literature, positioning. So positioning is very important. You position yourself in the literature, and you also position yourself when there is a gap in the literature. You position. So positioning is very important. Your solution positioning or your research positioning is very important. Therefore, for the successful implementation of reverse logistics management, it is important to understand the consumer's intention in these take back programs with the citation. Hujetti et al. 2016. So you see, this solution has been positioned with the existing literature. That this is there, this is there, this is there. So it means this should be there. This is the critical problem. Therefore, successful implementation of reverse logistics management is important to understand. So with the literature you support your point that it is important. The criticality is about dealing with the waste. Now we talked about the research gap. Do you remember in the research gap we talked in the last lecture of ours, in the problem statement we talked about the research gap. Do you remember? What was the name of the research gap? What was the topic? I am talking about the John Creswell problem statement. Yes. What was the elements in that? The topic was there. Evidence from the literature was there. Audience, yes, and one more was. Okay, whatever was there, research gap. Over here we are using the word research gap. What is not available in the research? However, when considering reverse logistics, the consumer perspective is given the least importance. Primarily, reverse logistics have focused on the recycling concept from the supplier or manufacturer perspective. So this is mentioned in the Caution et al. 2016. This is a gap that no one talked about the consumer perspective. They talked about the manufacturer and the supplier, but they never talked about consumer. Furthermore, few numbers of researchers has focused on the consumer's return intention and return behavior toward the used products. Jina and Sarma 2015 and other citation Kanpur et al. 2017. The important role of consumer in the reverse logistics have not be highlighted. Dixit and Badgyan 2016. However, in Pakistan, now you see the research gap is being identifying with the perspective of Pakistan, that no such researches in Pakistan has been done. However, in Pakistan hardly any research have been conducted regarding the consumer return intention. Understanding the consumer perspective in depth is one of the major challenge in the reverse logistics. At last, you position yourself again. Literature gap positioning. Therefore, the present research attempts to see consumer return intentions. From the past literature, it has been identified that literature discussing the reverse logistics from the consumer perspective is scarce. In reverse logistic literature, the consumers are not given the consideration. There is a lack of literature regarding the reverse logistics. Okay, and there's the linkage between the reverse logistics strategy for the company and consumer behavior has been discussed in only few studies with the citation. Whatever you are saying, if you are saying there are very few studies, there are no studies, so you always talk with the citation. A little attention has been given to figure out factors that motivates consumer toward the adoption of exchange practices related to reverse logistics. This is very, very important because why? Because you are going to talk about the factors which are creating the intention towards the dealing of plastic. However, in Pakistan, hardly any research has been conducted. So you see, you focus the research gap toward the Pakistan context. Hardly any research has been conducted regarding the consumer role in reverse logistics. Understanding the consumer perspective in depth, one of the major challenges in the reverse logistics. Again, positioning. Over there you see understanding the consumer perspective, reverse logistics, and again you see I think it is a bit repeating maybe. Anyway, therefore the current research aims to fill, this is the literature gap positioning. Therefore the current research aims to fill this void by understanding in depth the consumer perspective in reverse logistics. Gap positioning. Now, what you develop objective in the thesis, but in the research paper you do not write the word objective. I have mentioned for you just to make you understand that this is the objective. Actually, it was not mentioned. With the heading of the introduction in the research paper, you write everything. You complete the chapter 1 of the thesis with the only heading, that is introduction. So here you see objective is there. To understand the consumer behavior related to product return. In addition, it aims to identify factors that motivates consumers to participate more in the returning of waste products. Research contribution, it tries to contribute in the literature of reverse logistics for the better implementation of reverse logistics. Moreover, research helps to highlight strategies that can be implemented to reduce environment pollution caused by the plastic waste. Now you see audience is there. Moreover, enabling the government and companies to develop strategies that motivate the consumer to properly handle this plastic waste. Research questions are there. What are the factors that influence the consumer intention toward the return of plastic? How do consumers deal with their waste products? Now, practical and theoretical implementation. Practical, theoretical and policy implications. Implication is what? That how the solution of your problem which you are proposing, which you are researching, will help the implementation to the managers, to the policymakers in the theory, what you are contributing to the theory. It is anticipated that the current study will contribute to literature related to reverse logistics, especially in Pakistan. So it is called theoretical implication, how it can be implemented in the theory. The insights of especially in Pakistan has as hardly any study been conducted before. The insights of consumers' perspective in reverse logistics will help the companies to enhance this reverse logistics activities through involvement of consumers. The better understanding of the consumer behavior will enable government to develop and implement policies. So you see government policies and others are recommended. So you may read this one paragraph. So that's how basically you develop the introduction. I am just about to summarize whatever you make in the introduction for any article which can be published or which is published in the Impact Factor Journal. In the beginning, you start with the introduction. In the introduction, you start with the main variable, dependent variable of yours, who is the protagonist of your research, the main variable of your research. In this study, it was the plastic waste. Okay? So we started with the plastic waste and we talked about the importance, the significance. We highlighted the criticality of the plastic waste in the environment. Okay? Towards then we moved ahead how to dispose the plastics, how to deal with the plastic. We talked about the dealing with the plastic with the previous literature, and we also talked about the criticality of that. It is very important, very significant. It is very critical to deal with that issue. Then afterwards we talked about the Pakistani context, that how Pakistani contexts are being affected. We talked about our coastal line, that how it is affected with the proper citations. So in the beginning of the introduction, you need to remember that the best citations you have to use. Best citations are what? The articles which have been cited by many researchers. Whenever you go to the Google Scholar, you find any plastic waste, dealing with the plastic waste article, you enter for the search of the plastic waste, you find multiple articles. So you have to see that which article has the most citations, and then you have to read that article and then cite. So that's how it goes. So that shows that how strong and strengthening your introduction is. If you cite any article which is not being referred much, so it is not welcome by the publisher. Remember, you can never publish an article which is quoted multiple citations of the non-credible journal. So they are not welcome. They never welcome. In fact, they give you comment that change it. You have to use the citations which are widely accepted. Secondly, another tip is you use the citation of the article which has already been published in the particular journal. It is also a catchy one, but it is not always. But the most important one is go with the article which is most cited. Okay, then we move ahead, we develop the problem statement. First we develop the criticality, then we come with the problem statement, and in the problem statement we talked about what is in the literature, then we position ourselves that how come we stand or how come we contribute through our article in the research, in the literature. Then we move ahead, we talked about the research gap, what is not available in the research, and we talked about multiple articles, and at the end we talked that how our article, our solution is basically contributing to the literature. And at the end we talked about the audience, and you see we talked about the theoretical and practical implications, policy implications, theoretical implications, managerial implications. Before that we talked about the objective and the research questions. The research questions and objectives are very, very important. So that's how you write the introduction of any research article. Any question? Anything which is unclear? Okay, thank you.